All right, my beautiful people, this is ERGJ. Give it a new episode. It's called Propaganda Machine. And in the Propaganda Machine, what I do is I try to expose or try to get us to analyze the news and make some, do some critical thinking as it relates to the things that are being presented to us. My goal is to get you to think before you react. Our whole nation is all about reacting to what's being presented to them by the biggest propaganda machine ever invented in man, and that's mainstream media. Propaganda machine is basically mind control. It's the same tactics that was used back with Hitler is the same tactics being used today, covered under the disguise of television, radio, and internet. Internet. So you can do this with any type of media. It's a little bit easier for me to actually do it through reading versus listening and watching, because I can always go back and reread the text. So however it is that you want to do, you do. But I want to just hop right into it. It's 7/13/2016. I want to bring you up on the narrative. The narrative where we're at now is that last Friday we had 5 cops that were killed. This is the mainstream narrative, and it's not the whole narrative. It's just part of the narrative. So we had 5 cops that were killed. During a protest from Black Lives Matter. That was in response to 2 killings of police brutality on Black men in Louisiana and Minnesota. Since that time, we've had protests in the land, and it's now Wednesday. So basically almost a week later, and we got some more things coming up. And so what I wanted to do tonight or today or with you guys is really just go through some of these news headlines, these news stories, because some people are really trying to figure out, man, what am I seeing? And just kind of talk you through how I think about what it is that I see and things that stand out to me. And of course, some things are going to stand out to you. So I love for you to share your thoughts as we go through, but I want to hop right into it because I don't want to waste too much of your time. The main place that I go is going to be CNN. That's where I start. Why CNN? Well, it's probably the number one. CNN is probably the number one station to get things out to the public. If you go to a job, typically they have CNN playing in the office. So CNN is an easy place to kind of go and just really take some things away. But as I mentioned, we had a narrative, and our narrative was basically Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter, protesting against police brutality in the streets. And so we have this new law that was passed in North Carolina. This is probably happening while people are protesting, but a bill just got passed by in North Carolina. Police camera footage will no longer be made public in North Carolina. This is on 7/12. Governor McCrory passed a bill 972. He signed this bill into law on Monday and makes police dashboard camera and body camera footage exempt from public record. House Bill 972 does not make such video accessible to people who can be seen or heard in it, along with their personal representatives. But they must file a request to obtain the footage. If the request is denied, the petitions must go before the state superior court. Requests can be denied to protect the person's safety or reputation, or if the record is part of an active investigation. Now, when I think about this, guys, I'm saying to myself, well, what was the point of us having body cameras if now we can pass a law that can make those images, not available to the public? Like, the public pays for the body camera, but now we can write a bill that restricts the access to that footage, or it makes us go through all of these steps in order to get that footage. You got to file a request. So now you won't just see it on television. If they deny the request, you got to take it to superior court. Like, most of the common American people are not going to go through all of those steps in order to get this footage. This is why they do it. Now, here's the other thing that we see. Whenever you have a precedent that's being set in a state, now that sets the precedent for other states to adopt that bill. Think marijuana laws. So it started in one state, and then another state will pick up, adopt that bill, adopt that protocol. So we can start to see camera footage not being made public in other states. This is huge. We're paying for this equipment for cops to use, and we're already at this point not getting much in return for our hard-earned tax dollars. Whenever we see an event happen, typically it'll be they had a body camera on, but it malfunctioned, or it fell off, or it fell off during the altercation. So, this is very, very disturbing, and this is the kind of stuff that slips right up under the nose of the common people, because guess what? They're now so focused on fighting. All right, so that's the police camera story. Just wanted to give that to you guys. And again, that's Huffington Post. You can go and read it yourself. You can read through all of it if you like, but that's the nuts and bolts of that story. And so I'll move on here. We got the headlines on CNN. Of course, they're talking about who Trump is going to put for vice president. If you're into politics and that's your thing, you definitely are going to be following that a little bit more. But when I come here, I look for the top stories. And I first look for what's not necessarily the top story. Trump to Ginsburg resigned. I don't really care about that. I don't really care about I care about the GOP divide, but I don't want to spend a lot of time in there today. But one of the things that stuck out to me right off the bat is here. 3 arrested in an alleged plot to kill cops. Wow. Okay. So here we have this story that's set up. Baton Rouge police, 3 arrested in a plot to harm officers. Now, why did I pick this story? Because I'm seeing the narrative that they're playing, that is being written, that is being scripted, that is being put forth by the mainstream agenda. This is going to further perpetuate the agenda to have Black lives against blue lives. These are 3 Black kids now against the cops. They're at a. I don't like how they just automatically play. They have this is at a protest, and so when I'm reading the story, you got to ask yourself, man, is this story real? I mean, does this make sense? So Baton Rouge Police Chief Carl DeBobby on Tuesday said officers have arrested 3 people they believe were planning to kill police in Louisiana City. Said the threat emerged after the shooting death of Alton Sterling last week by Baton Rouge police, which has prompted a week-long protest by people concerned about police using deadly task force. Okay, so they're protesting. Listen to this. The credible threat. What does that mean? The credible threat. So who became credible? How did it become credible? How did the threat become credible? It used a word like planning. Credible threat was why law officers were quick to take aggressive action when they believed protesters were becoming unruly. So they used credible threat as a way to say, hey, we're going to go in and get aggressive with protesters when they become unruly because we have a credible threat. Now, how in the world do you define that? DeBobby and other top law enforcement officers told reporters on Tuesday. Now, listen to this. This is the East Baton Rouge sheriff. He says, we can't take anything for granted anymore. What you saw in law enforcement response is because of a very real and viable threats against law enforcement. Look what happened in Dallas. A very peaceful protest and then some crazy gunman or crazy madman. So the chief is saying that, hey, we have a credible threat and we're on our guard because of what happened in Dallas. But yet this is Louisiana. So he's connecting this protest. He's connecting this protest to the protest in Dallas. And now we got a lot of fear, not just from the people that are protesting, but now we got fear from the police, which is causing them to do things like, hey, we got a credible threat. Let's get aggressive. Let's take aggressive action because we believe that we got some people that are planning to kill us. Do you see the narrative? So he's going to say, police said they learned of a plot when an officer responded to a burglary at Cash American Pond early Saturday morning, arrested Antonio Thomas in the store. So we had a guy, probably a young kid or whatever, 17-year-old, who robbed a Cash American Pond. So this guy who robbed the pawn store is part of a plot, a bigger plot, so the authorities say. This is real life HollyWeird, guys. We can't make this stuff up. So the police said Thomas, 17, had 1 handgun and 1 airsoft BB gun. He had a BB gun and he got 1 handgun. Now, they say that Thomas, the suspect, the person they captured, said this. He told investigators he and 3 others stole firearms. Okay, you're telling the truth. Y'all stole some firearms and that you are seeking bullets to shoot police officers. Now, ask yourself this, guys. If you, for some strange reason, robbed a pawn store, which I believe that's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it is something wrong with that, but I'm saying it's plausible. It's probably true. He probably tried to rob the pawn store. You're going to come back and tell authorities that, hey, me and 3 other people, we're trying to get some bullets so we can shoot police officers. Or is a 17-year-old young Black male or anybody going to say that in custody? Hey, you know what? You caught me, police. And I want to let you know that we are trying to shoot more police. Come on, man. This is real life HollyWeird. You can't make this stuff up. So surveillance videos show the suspects using a ladder to climb the roof, and they're talking about their going into the pawn shop. Thomas was accused of burglary and theft and firearm, booked into Parish prison. Okay, now because they gave us the story that Thomas was saying that he was with 3 other people, they were seeking bullets to shoot police officers. Now the police officers say, hey, we got to go find those other people. So since Saturday, detectives have arrested 2 other suspects in this case. So they've created a case from a case, including 13-year-old boy. 1 suspect remains at large, she say. Mark Bridgewater, 20, was arrested on Sunday at his home and was charged with burglary and theft of a firearm. Detective recovered 3 of the stolen handguns with Bridgewater. So 8 handguns were stolen from the pawn shop, 6 of which have been recovered. Our officers have been working around the clock to get these firearms. So I understand recovering the stolen things from the pawn shop. What I don't understand, though, is how you connect that to 3 arrested in plot to harm officers. Do you see what they're doing, guys? So now that brings even more fear for protesters, more fear for the officers, and more likely that something explosive is going to happen. This is the agenda of mainstream media, to cause something explosive to happen. And guess what? When the explosion happens, it doesn't impact those that have money and power. It only impacts the pawns, the sheep, the slaves. It only impacts the people on the low end of the totem pole. It's only going to impact the frontline officers and the frontline people. It's not going to impact anybody on the back line, anybody that's rich and famous. None of those people that impact. It's going to impact the common people or the poor people of this American society. Do you see the propaganda that is portrayed by mainstream media? So so that's one example there of what we see. And I saw something earlier. I think it may have disappeared. So I saw this here. So this is coming back to this Austin Sterling thing, and we had an affidavit that came out. Now here's the deal, guys. Obviously, Austin Sterling was one of the first, I think last Monday or Tuesday, to get shot by police. And so it says Baton Rouge officer. This is still back in Baton Rouge. So this is connected to what we just read, which is a follow-up. The protest is a follow-up to this. Austin Sterling reached for a gun before he was shot. So the affidavit comes out and affirms, here we go, in a search warrant affidavit seeking surveillance video from the store, the detective Cook wrote that the Baton Rouge officers deployed their tasers after Sterling did not comply with their orders. Now, while the officers were attempting to subdue the subject, the officers observed the butt of a gun in the subject's front pants pockets. When the subject attempted to reach for the gun from his pockets, the officers fired their police-issued duty weapon, and the subject stopped the threat. The subject was shot multiple times and did not survive his injuries. So this is the affidavit. This is the official report. And, for some watching that video that came out, they're going to say this doesn't match the video. For others, they're going to say this makes sense. And we know which side of the coin is going to fall on. Most likely, black people are not going to believe this story. Most likely, white people will believe this story. I'm just stating the facts, guys. Not facts. I'm just stating the ideas of the way in which our perceptions have been heightened depending on what side of the room you come from. And unfortunately, this could very well be true. I mean, we would have to go and look and do more, research ourselves. But do we believe this detective? I don't know. But I do know that this story coming out, I think it was great to come out. I mean, I guess it was needed. But what I do know is that it's going to stir even more tension in Baton Rouge and across the country, because one side obviously isn't going to believe the story. The other side is going to believe the story. The officer, one side is going to say the officer had a right to shoot the suspect. The other side is going to say, police brutality had him pinned down. That he didn't reach for his gun, or they could have avoided shooting him, or whatever the case may be. because I guess it's one thing to reach for the gun, it's another thing to actually grab the gun and point it at an officer. But it depends on what you believe of the story. But the point is, the story itself is causing more unrest, it's causing more protests, it's causing more fear, it's causing more division. That's what I'm trying to say. And if you look at all of these headlines, you really won't see any headline that's going to bring forth unity. It's all about division. So you got to ask yourself, you got to think before you react, because many people are going to react to some of these stories and go out and do something stupid. But I'm trying to get people to think before they act. Man, what is the narrative? If you were writing this story, or if you believe that the story is being written, let's just say it's being directed, then the director would want you to elicit some type of emotion, some type of response. And what I'm trying to get you to understand is, whatever it is that the director wants you to do the opposite. Because if you do what they expect you to do what they want you to do, then you're just falling right into the narrative that's being pushed forth by mainstream media. So anyway, I just wanted to we can go through, those are the things I wanted to go over today, or right now doing this video. And I'll be doing more of these. I hope this helps. If it does, leave a like. Let me know that you want me to keep doing some of this stuff, because I can do this every day, because every day is going to be something new that comes out. But I just really just go through and say, okay, what, look at this. Trump declines NAACP invitation. I mean, I could go on and on. The race war agenda is being pushed full force right now to cause more division. Because guess what, guys? If we do come together, black and white, Democrat and Republican, whatever the divisions are, if we do come together, we're all going to be a force to reckon with. But as long as the agenda, the establishment can push forth the agenda for us to be divided in whatever way that we're divided, then divided we fall. I think that we can get united if we start to think about the things that are presented to us and question some of them and have open dialogue. Feel free to reach out and talk to me. I'm open to speak. I really am about the people and us opening our minds to think. And I think that the more people that think, the more apt we are to come across a solution. So anyway, this is ERGJ. This is the propaganda machine. I'm exposing it. Hopefully you guys are seeing some of the things that I'm seeing. If not, that's fine. I really just wanted to get this out today, to get this started with a new, with my new edition, going through the news and showing you guys and teaching you guys about this propaganda machine so that you can free your mind to think for yourself. All I ask is that you think before you react.